And we'll start reading at verse 1. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. The earth was formless and void, and darkness was over the surface of the deep, and the Spirit of God was moving over the surface of the waters. Then God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. And God saw the light, that the light was good, and God separated the light from the darkness. God called the light day, and the darkness he called night, and there was evening and morning one day. Then God said, "Let there be a break in the expanse in the midst of the waters, and let it separate the waters from the earth." God made the expanse and separated the waters which were below the expanse from the earth, water which were above the expanse, and it was so. God called the expanse heaven, and there was evening and there was morning the second day. Then God said, "Let the waters below the heavens be gathered into one place, and let dry land appear," and it was so. And God called the dry land earth, and the gathering of the waters he called good, called sea, and God saw that it was good. That obviously is part of the creation story. God began it all. He had a plan. He had something he was working on. He had a desire to complete it, and he did. And now we get not too many years later, and you can just follow this on through history, and people who are part of God's plan like to complain and criticize and moan and explain how he did not quite get that plan exactly right, even though he said it was a good plan. Our thing is to find God's purpose in creation. He put it together. He had a plan. He had an idea. We ask, so why did he create? And what was the purpose? And there are multiple answers to that. He created it for his glory. He created it so we could fear him and keep his commandments. He created it for that loving relationship. We could go on and on there. That's really not the point of the lesson. So he put the meaning into it. We don't decide the meaning. We participate in what he put together. We find our place, our role in his creation, and that's where we find our meaning. And even though people are indifferent about creation and different about God, and it seems like more so in some ways today than in times past, that still doesn't cancel God's purpose. He still has his purpose. He still has his reason for this being here, and he still is pursuing it. I would say that's why we still exist. If he was done with it, you wouldn't be here. Or as one motivational speaker likes to say, God's not through with you yet, or else you wouldn't wake up in the morning. And I kind of think that's a little nice. So as we look around the world, we see a lot of people that live just empty lives. They're hollow. They're always chasing something. And I'm going to tell you that emptiness is the result of pushing God out. That emptiness is the whole just, God can't be anywhere. And then, of course, people are so inconsistent because the minute their lives go wrong, they want to know where God was. And the proper answer to that is God's a gentleman. You ask him to step out of your life, get out of your life, leave you alone, and he said, "As you wish." But when he steps out, there's consequences. And so it leads to an empty sense of life. So your fulfillment is going to be found in God's purpose. What were you created for? And when you can dial into that, you're going to find meaning and purpose and reason to life. So our role in God's creation, it's a blessing. It's a blessing to be here. Now we got plenty of things to complain about. There always will be. There always have been. That's just the way humanity works because of free moral agency. But it's pretty rare that I meet anybody who's trying to shorten their life. Most people are looking at how to optimize their life, expand their life, and even though they will say the right words about, "Oh, I'm ready to go on and be on the other side," and, however they want to say it, isn't it funny how they keep going to the doctor and keep taking their medicines and keep doing this and keep doing that? When the closer death gets, the more anxious they become. It's easy to talk a good game. It's a whole different thing not to talk a good game. So this is a blessing. This is a gift to be here. And I think you should treat it like a gift and say, we're one of the lucky ones. Statistically, they say of all the people that could potentially be created from human DNA, just a scientific statistic, you won the lottery. That most people that could exist will never ever exist. We're the rare ones. Now, if you find that a little interesting, Google it because there's different thoughts on it. But anyway, So God created with intention. I want to run over to Psalms 33, verse 6 through 9 for a moment. Psalms 33, 6 through 9. By the word of the Lord the heavens were made, and by the breath of his mouth all their host. He gathers the waters of the sea together as a heap. He lays up the deep in storehouses. Let all the earth fear the Lord. Let all the inhabitants of the world stand in awe of him. He spoke and it was done. He commanded and it stood fast. It is here and it continues to exist by the will of God. This is all very deliberate and purposeful. This is one of the things I think we lose contact with when we're so busy and we all have a plate full of stuff to do and we're going in 11 different directions. And most of us are so busy we can't do everything we want to do. We just have to make some choices and cut some things off. But you got to understand, God didn't just throw this together as an experiment. He didn't put some elements in a test tube, shake it up and go, let's see what happened here. He knew exactly what was going to happen. He knew exactly what he was putting together. I would take it further with the foreknowledge of God and say he saw your day coming and he created you, Psalms 139 says, in your mother's womb. It's all extremely purposeful. Satan's trick is to get us to not see that. Satan likes to do other things. And so what I want and what I think you want is a solid foundation for your life. You want to feel like there's some meaning here and that all the energy and time and effort you put in has purpose behind it. And it does. But you have to get that lined up right. If the purposes you're looking at all end at the tombstone, then it's going to look pretty much purposeless all in all. Now, I'm not saying you can't have some purposes this side of the tombstone. Obviously, we do. But I would like to think that most of those are minor. They're little things. What we're wanting are those eternal purposes, the eternal connection with God, learning to become one with God. So you got people who just drift and wander all over the place because they never really find their place. They never find their purpose. They're just, in a sense, I'm going to call them spiritual hobos. They got nothing. You know, I mean, yeah, they got a house and they got a bank account, they got a car and they got some toys, but no, that's not meaning. Look, if a house and a car or two cars and some of your favorite toys, whatever those happen to be, gave people a sense of meaning and purpose, we would not see the disrest in America. We would not see all of the protesting and carrying on that we see. I would suggest to you that when you see all the unrest on TV, it is because people are looking for some way to add meaning to their life, whether I agree with it or not. And some have decided the way for me to find meaning in my life is to protest and then pick your subject. Because my goodness, there's a list of things of protest. But they never find their meaning, do they? They go on and they live miserable lives and they cause other people misery and pain also. What I'm going to tell you is that taking our place in God's design, learning why we're here and the purpose we're here, which real simply is Ecclesiastes 12:13. To fear God and keep his commandments. That's the whole of man. We're here to seek God, Acts 17:26. That's the purpose, is to learn to become one with God as Christ and God are one, John 17:21. Now, if you can get that and tune into that, that changes the entire thing. But if your purpose is to have a bigger house, more money, bigger cars, prestige, fame, applause, on and on, it's a dead end road. It always just leads to just frustration if you don't have a long-term plan. So what might we discover if we got on board with God's plan? If we really said, okay, and, you know, God's not trying to take my stuff away. And I think that's what a lot of people hear when preachers preach. It's like, oh, God wants all my stuff. He wants me to go live under a bridge and be a pauper or something. No, don't jump to those crazy extremes. God's not trying to take our stuff away. He made us stewards. And now as stewards, we're going to practice a stewardship that honors and glorifies God. And the trick about that, or not the trick, the neat thing is you get to keep your stuff. So what if you did get on board with God's plan entirely, 100%? What if the pursuit of God really became your number one central passion? So he said, Matthew 22:37, to love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, or that was in our morning reading today, and Deuteronomy 6:4. What if you really got on board with that and everything literally became about God? He was the center of the bullseye and everything you did revolved around him. What might you discover? I think it's an interesting, let's call it thought experiment. So God's verdict, it was good. We read through Genesis 1:10 where he said it was good. Up earlier in that text he said it was good. Verse 12 he says it was good. Verse 18 he said it was good. Verse 21 he said it was good. Verse 25 he said it was good. And verse 31, which gets quoted most often, he said it was good. God looked at it and said it's good, it's good, it's good, it's good. This is good. This is good stuff here. And then we argue about God. Well, a little thinking here. God created a good place and he gave it to us. He gave it to us. And he said, you manage it. You're the keeper of the garden, so to speak, as Adam was the keeper of the garden. He gave us dominion over everything, right? So if we have something to whine about and complain about, whose fault is it? It's not God's. The only thing I can blame God for, and that's really not the right language I want, but the only thing I can blame God for was he made me responsible for my life. And he made you responsible for your life. He made you responsible for how you participate in your relationships. He made our community responsible for how we treat one another. He gave us the responsibility to manage this life in a way that is good. Are there things to complain about? Absolutely there are things to complain about. But it's not God's fault. He gave us this one big, beautiful creation and said, okay, here it is. Here is the best gift I could ever give mankind. Y'all take care of it. And immediately people's pride kicked in, right? And we started doing all kinds of different things. So purpose and meaning are from the very beginning of creation. And it's alluded to there in Eve and Adam in the garden when they were given a rule to follow. And they're keeping the garden and those things. But we don't create meaning. And the meaning doesn't disappear just because people ignore it. God had a purpose. He put it all together. And he still has that purpose. He is still looking for those few that will seek him diligently. You know the Hebrews 11:6 verse where he's a rewarder of those who diligently seek him. That's right at the end of that verse. And Luke 19:10, where he said the Son of Man came to seek and save the lost. He's still looking for those. There is still a place for people who will wake up and want that discipleship. That's what he's looking for. And just because most people ignore it, or because most people have turned religion into just a dog and pony show, a big picnic and party all the time, and entertainment, theater of some sort or another, doesn't mean God's purpose went away. It's still there. And it's up to you and I individually, because this is the only place it can happen. I can preach about it all day long, but I can't make anybody do it. You know the old saying, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. That's what it boils down to. So individually, every person has to go, okay, it's still there. I'm going to find it. So do we trust God's evaluation or do I form my own? God said it's good. It's good. It's good. Now what am I going to do? I don't think God's quite right on that. I'm going to argue with God. I want to debate with God. How's that going to work out? Who's going to win that debate? So if you look at Job 38, Job said, I'd like to defend my case before God. God said, okay, let me give you a chance here. That didn't work out too good, did it? It's kind of like the grain of sand trying to argue with the entire universe. We just don't have that. Now we think we do. And we set up the cards perfectly in our head, but God doesn't play by our rules. He's the creator. He put it all together. And so I look at his evaluation. Okay, it's good. And that's going to shape how I move through the world. Now, I didn't say it's all fun or it's all pleasant. Didn't say that. But I did say it's all good. Now you could use Romans 8:28 there if you want. We may get to James chapter 1 verse 2 through 4, but there's good to come out of all of it. 2 Timothy 2:3 where he says, endure hardships with me as a good soldier. That's really important. So I get to view myself as a critic, and I can live as a critic, and I can walk around looking at everything that's wrong and mine. Since so much is a matter of opinion, it's easy, you know. So Trump just waged an attack on probably the worst terrorist thing in the world. And, you know, there have been people, you know, against Trump and against Trump and against Trump because they do the narrative, the narrative, the narrative. And you can do any narrative you want. You can do any scenario you want because we don't know what's going to happen going forward, do we? I don't know what's going to happen going forward. I got my plans for the day, but I don't know I'm going to even get my plans for the day. Now, my plans aren't significant enough to really talk about, but you could argue with me about my plans and you could criticize my plans and tell me why my plans are all wrong, especially if we'd go past the day and look out 5 years or so, because nobody knows. And so you're going to live the life of a critic, and now and then the critic's right, and sometimes the critic's wrong. It's just really a gamble, a roll of the dice. And so you're going to live in that world of criticism and fear mongering all the time. It's just, you know, your choice. Or you can live as a recipient of a really great gift. And I'm talking about the gift of life God gave us, which we all want to hang on to. Every single one of us in here. If we went to the doctor today and he said, I really hate to tell you this, the test came back. It doesn't look like you have 2 weeks to live. You need to get your affairs in order. We're going to be crying. We're going to be calling the preacher. We're going to call a friend. And we're going to be boo-hooing and bawling. It's going to be a very rare person that says, finally it's the end. This has been such an ugly life. I'm glad to get out of here. Now, I think there have been an outlier or two there who would say something like that, but most of us wouldn't because we view life as a gift, and it is a gift. It's a wonderful gift. So how are you going to live it? You want to be a critic? Because you can always find something wrong with everything. Criticism's easy. Oh, you wore that shirt? You shouldn't have wore that shirt today. Oh, you're going to drive that way to Little Rock? Why do you want to drive that way? You ought to go this way instead. I mean, anything can be criticized. The trick is to turn off the critic and start enjoying the gift. This is a gift of life and a gift of relationships. And no relationships are not absolutely 100% perfect. But I have an idea that if you wanted to get away from all relationships, you'd be very reclusive and we'd never ever see you. Kind of funny how we keep liking to see each other and showing up to visit one another. Why? Because it's a gift. We like those kind of things. So gratitude sees the purpose. We look for the purpose. We're going to use 1 Timothy 4 and 5 here. Here he's actually talking about some dietary things, and that was a big argument back in the day. So they were talking in the previous text about people forbidding to eat certain things. And he said, for everything created by God is good, and nothing is to be rejected if it's received with gratitude, for it is sanctified by the means of the word of God and prayer. Look, receive with gratitude. That's what you want to do. You want to look at it, and each time you want to be happy with it. Familiarity, of course, it dulls the gratitude. We are living the top 10% of life in the world of 8 billion people. We ought to be glorious and dancing and happy and living on cloud 9 all of the time. Because 90% of the world can't imagine what it is to live the life we live. Now, how many people do you know that moan and complain about living in the top 10%? Well, I'm not the top 1%. You know, if they made the top 1%, it wouldn't work. They'd be going, well, I'm not the top 0.1% or whatever. You just got to learn to stop and smell the roses. Isn't that just good old-fashioned advice right there? You just find it in the simple pleasures of life. And you do. That's where so much of it happens. So we have hungry consumers that just lack gratitude. You feed them and feed them and feed them, and they want more and more and more. That's why the old timers, and some of you remember it, they say, look, if you get people to church with hot dogs, you're going to have to feed them hamburger later on. I know that's done gone from hamburger steak and shrimp. I mean, what used to draw people to churches by way of entertainment won't even get a yawn out of them now. They just look at it and go, oh yeah, nah. They want more and more and more and more. And the more you feed it, the more it wants. What did somebody say? You don't make a pig slim by feeding it more grain. But that's what we try to do. So gratitude, just trust God. You're just going to lay it out there. I'm going to trust God, whatever God says. Now, James 1, 2 through 4, that's where he says, count it all joy when you fall into various trials. Can you trust God there? Life's not going the way you wanted it to. Didn't unfold the way you wanted it to. How many people has a life that your life has unfolded exactly the way you wanted it to? Go ahead, raise your hand. I think we could have an attendance of 1,000 people and say, raise your hand, and nobody go, no, this isn't quite the way I planned on life working out, right? It doesn't work out that way. So can I trust that God knows what He's doing? He knows why He allows what He allows, and He has a purpose to it. And James 1, 2 through 4 tells us so that we may be perfect. It's a growing training thing. Can I trust God in the growing? Part of our problem is we want heaven here on earth. This ain't heaven. This is earth. This is the battle. Heaven's after this life. Right now, we need to be soldiers that know how to man up and be soldiers. So if we can learn to get to gratitude for all the good little things that come through our life, and come on, man, there's so many good things that come through our life. If we started counting them, we would be occupied for weeks and months. And some of it would be little bitty stuff. But man, I didn't have to walk to church today. I got to ride in the car. I don't have to use a party line or a telegraph machine with Morse code. I got my own phone. I get to actually FaceTime if I want to look at your face, which I'm not that excited about showing my face all the time. But anyway, you see, I got entertainment 24/7. I can live stream anything I want, anytime I want. Eat anything, anytime I want virtually. Go almost anywhere I want anytime. I mean, just start counting it down. Wear what I want, buy what I want. And yet people are still wound up in that ingratitude of selfishness. If you can hook into the gratitude and you start counting all those blessings and see what you have, now it's going to disrupt that entitlement, which is exactly what we want to do. So one of the things you want to ask is, why did God make this, or why did God allow this? We believe that God is in control and God can allow or stop anything He wants, and He allows a whole lot of things that we don't understand. And I'm going to tell you simply and short, the reason He allows those things is James chapter 1, verse 2 through 4. Count it all joy when you fall in trials, knowing the testing of your faith. And it produces us into greater and greater maturity. But you got to fall in love with the training. That's part of the purpose. So we have nihilism, and I know nihilism is not a word we use very often, so I'll quickly explain it. Nihilism is basically the philosophical thought that nothing really matters, that there is no purpose or meaning to anything. There's your real nice short little encapsulation of nihilism. And that's a problem a lot of people face. Ecclesiastes 1, 2 through 4, I'm not going to turn there, but that's where Solomon says, vanity, vanity, all is vanity. He's like, what's the use? Anything I do, it's gonna be gone. It's not gonna last. Nobody's gonna remember me. Very few people get remembered, incidentally. Most of us just become a meaningless name on somebody's family tree, and that's okay. But anyway, so emptiness, it can grow very quietly in the background, and it fades out the meaning of life and the purpose of life. And our detachment from the Creator just leads to a world that's full of things but empty of meaning. And I would say that's kind of where our world is right now. America, full of things. I mean, we're living a good life. I know I told the story before, but let me do it really quick. I've had inmates who are incarcerated who lived in third world countries, and they would come up and say, I live better here in Varner Maximum Security Unit than my parents lived back home. That's the opulence that we live in today by worldly standards, but there's no meaning. Why are people wasting their life out on drugs? I would say it's escapism. I would say they're just trying to numb the pain. My life has no meaning. My life has no purpose. Nobody really loves me or cares about me. Think I'll just get high so I don't feel it. Think I'll just get drunk so I won't feel it. Why are people chasing the absurdities? Why are they doing some of the crazy things they do? I'm going to suggest to you, a lot of it is they're just looking for some meaning. My life's empty. I want meaning. And we miss it because it's right under our nose. So I'm going to go back a couple of years, probably more than a couple. How many remember The Greatest Showman? How many of you sang some of the songs from The Greatest Showman? You tried, the notes were too high, but we couldn't get there. And so the main character, of course, he's wanting to build and create the dream that he told her about in their childhood youth, which is a little more of a guy thing. And he's going along and he feels like he's missed it. He's feeling like a failure. And he comes home after being terminated at the end of the day because the company went bankrupt, so on and so forth. And they're on the rooftop playing in the sheets. And he's trying to explain to her, this just, where's the magic? And she points over at the two kids and says, what do you think that is? That's it. That's it. You will never know a more exciting magic than when you stood at the altar and watched your bride walk down the aisle. You won't know a more exciting magic than when you got to walk down the aisle and be there in that moment and share that. That's it. This is the pinnacle of it. There's nothing more exciting than when that baby comes. And back in our day, that's when you found out what it was, And they go, it's a girl. And then you hand you that girl. And you go, I don't know what to do with it. But there's nothing, and the whole family thing. Why are we out chasing it somewhere else? Church family, a few people. But our world has just got detached from the Creator's design, and it's out chasing something that is never, ever going to fulfill their lives. Distract them? Absolutely, for a while. Evolution just negated purpose, and people have got so stupid with their scientific. I need proof for that. Well, proof? Do you know how many things people are doing that there's no scientific proof for? I'm going to get married. Well, no, first you need to prove to me scientifically that works. Well, there's no scientific proof for that. Yeah, but I'm still going to get married, right? We're going to have family. Do you know what kind of headache you're asking for? There's no scientific proof that's going to work either. But we're still going to have kids, aren't we? So on and so forth. Evolution just got people thinking so absurdly. And then they decide, well, it's all one big accident. There is no meaning or purpose in life. And I'm going to tell you, our meaning begins with Scripture. Put God back in the center of your life. Absolute, dead set center. It's all about God. Can you have some peripheral interest? Absolutely. But God is truly the all your heart, all your soul, all your mind. And then I would ask you, what have you got to lose? And my answer is really nothing if you ask me. I look at what my worldly friends have gained and I'm like, that doesn't look like much of a gain to me. Maybe they like it. Trusting. Romans 8:28, that's where we get to quote, and this is part of the verse, all things work together for those who love the Lord. You just trust God. Faith's not the absence of questions. Let me give you Deuteronomy 29:29. That's where he said the secret things belong to God. God never intended for you and I to know everything. May I say that again? God never intended for you and I to know everything. That's why he says the secret things belong to him. What he's doing is he's humbling us. His mystery isn't a punitive thing. It's an invitation to trust him. And I find it ironic, as I have it there, You've got people who can't find their car keys half the time. They can't find their glasses when they're on top of their head. But they expect God to explain to them the purpose and meaning and mystery of the universe? Are you kidding me? Well, I mean, number one, the human brain just isn't going to be able to get it to start with. And yet people want to, well, I just don't understand everything, so I'm not going to trust God. Well, let me do a real quick aside. Men, how many of you, don't raise a hand, totally understood your woman inside out, everything about her before you married her? Now, after however many years of marriage you have, how many of you understand absolutely everything about her? Ladies, we can flip it around. How well do you understand? You're never going to. So why did you get married then? Well, I can't do it if I don't understand it all. Well, then be celibate. Well, no, I don't want to be celibate. The mysteries. It's not an abandonment. It's an invitation to learn to trust God. I know God's got this. No, I don't understand it all, but I know God's got this. It's somewhat like a child. Does a child understand everything his or her parents are deciding? Absolutely not. The role of the child is not to understand. The role of the child is to trust his or her parents. So I want us to pause and just see God. Say no to the virus of criticism. Sure, there's plenty out there to criticize, but if you can't do anything about it, I'm not going to waste a lot of time about it. So I don't know how you feel about the current political situation, but you and I can't do anything about it. Now, I'll sit around and if you're fun to talk to, we'll talk about it over a cup of coffee. I don't mind that. But I'm not going to waste a lot of energy and physical whatever when I can't do a thing about it. Don't waste your time on things you can't do anything about. Beware they're there. Avoid bad places. Use your good sense. But don't give in to the virus of criticism and worry and woe is me. Look, you're going to die. And all this nonsense is going to go on. The names are going to change. That's all it is. So I want you to say yes to purpose and meaning. I'm talking about presenting your body a living sacrifice, being transformed by the renewing of your mind, which will take us into a whole new lesson, right? Choose to see the good. It's out there. I know it's out there, or you wouldn't be interested in keeping your health so you can still get out there and do something. Am I right? Of course it's still out there. You find your thing that you like that honors God, whether it's playing with grandkids or enjoying nature. There's a little thing they call forest bathing now. And when I first heard of it, I thought, deer hunters have been forest bathing for years. Forest bathing means get out of the city and get into the woods and enjoy nature. It's extremely beneficial for your health. It is really, that's one of the things they're advocating. So there's a lot of good out there that you can see. You can get in nature and you can see all kinds of things. You can hang around people and you'll see good things and, just choose to see it. I really think more often you'll find what you're looking for. And if you look for the good, you'll find the good. And if you're looking for the bad, you'll find the bad. Because no one is 100% totally, completely evil, and no one is 100% totally good. So find your anchor in God. Faith's not about explaining everything. It's just about walking steadily with God. That's it. If you can get that, you got it. So don't live as a judge. Live as a grateful participant. And in that, you'll find your greatest sense of purpose and meaning. So, last question, we'll close. Are you living as a participant in God's plan according to His will? If so, stay the course. If not, let us help while together we stand and sing.